The courtroom smelled like old wood and broken promises. I sat perfectly still in the defendant's chair, my hands folded on the polished table, watching my ex-husband Marcus deliver his Oscar-worthy performance to the judge. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Your Honor, he said, his voice cracking with practiced emotion. I never thought I'd have to say this about the woman I once loved, but she abandoned our children. Just left them. Our daughter Emma was crying for her mother every night, and our son Tyler started having panic attacks at school. I felt the judge's eyes shift to me, heavy with judgment. Behind me, I could hear the gallery murmuring. Marcus's new wife, Vanessa, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the compassionate stepmother to perfection. She'd only known my children for 6 months, but here she was, ready to testify about my supposed failings as a mother. The lies rolled off Marcus's tongue like honey. He'd always been good at this, bending reality until it served his purposes. That's how he'd convinced me to sign papers I didn't fully understand 2 years ago. That's how he'd slowly isolated me from our kids, turning every scheduled visit into a battle, every phone call into an interrogation. She missed birthdays. Your Honor, Christmas. She didn't even call on Emma's first day of middle school. Marcus's attorney, a sharp-faced woman named Patricia Holbrook, nodded encouragingly from her seat. They'd prepared this narrative carefully, each lie building on the last. My attorney, an overworked public defender named Tom Chen, squeezed my arm gently. He'd warned me this would be ugly. What he didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment for 18 months. Every missed visit, Marcus claimed. I had the text messages where he'd canceled at the last minute. Every birthday he said I'd forgotten. I had receipts for gifts he'd refused to accept. Every phone call he insisted I'd never made. I had phone records that would make his head spin, but I sat silent, waiting. Because the truth about Marcus wasn't just about missed visits and manipulated schedules. It was so much bigger, so much darker, and I had spent the last 1.5 years methodically documenting every single piece of it. Your Honor, if I may? Patricia Holbrook stood, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. We have witnesses prepared to testify about Ms. Rivera's neglectful behavior. Her former neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, will speak to the numerous times she witnessed the children being left alone. We have school records showing repeated absences during Ms. Rivera's custody periods. We have therapist notes indicating both children expressed fear and anxiety about their mother. Each statement was a carefully constructed lie, twisted just enough from reality to sound plausible. Mrs. Henderson was Marcus's mother's bridge partner, who'd never lived next to us. The school absences had occurred during Marcus's custody, not mine. And the therapist Marcus had taken them to? Dr. Richard Lawson, who was currently under investigation by the State Medical Board for ethics violations, something Marcus's attorney had conveniently failed to mention. I knew all of this because I'd hired someone. Not a private investigator, though that came later. I'd hired someone much more valuable. A forensic accountant named Diana Park, who specialized in uncovering financial fraud in custody cases. What Diana had found in Marcus's records over the past 18 months was enough to make my hands shake even now, sitting in this courtroom watching him lie under oath. Judge Sarah Martinez looked at me over her reading glasses. She was in her late 50s, with steel gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and a reputation for not suffering fools. Ms. Rivera, you'll have your opportunity to respond to these allegations. Mr. Chen? Tom stood, clearing his throat. Your Honor, my client has been systematically denied access to her children through a campaign of parental alienation. We have extensive documentation that will demonstrate not only that Ms. Rivera has made repeated attempts to maintain her relationship with Emma and Tyler, but that Mr. Hayward has actively sabotaged these efforts. That's absurd, Marcus burst out, his face flushing. There it was, the temper he'd always struggled to control. The judge's eyes narrowed slightly. Mr. Hayward, you'll have your chance to speak. Right now, I'm listening to Ms. Rivera's attorney. Judge Martinez's voice was sharp, and I saw Marcus's jaw clench. He hated being corrected, especially by women in authority. I'd learned that the hard way during our marriage, Tom continued. Furthermore, Your Honor, we will present evidence that Mr. Hayward has made numerous false claims to schools, medical providers, and family court services. We have reason to believe this hearing itself is based on fabricated evidence. Patricia shot to her feet. Objection. That's a serious accusation without foundation. I'll allow it, Judge Martinez said, waving her hand. But Mr. Chen, I hope you have substantial evidence to back up such claims. We do, Your Honor. Tom glanced at me, and I gave him the slightest nod. We'd discussed this strategy for weeks. Show them enough to prove Marcus was lying about the abandonment, but save the nuclear evidence for when it would have maximum impact. The next hour crawled by as Patricia called her first witness, Mrs. Henderson, who testified about seeing my children unsupervised and unkempt during my supposed custody periods. I watched her lie under oath, her powdered face composed, her voice steady. She described incidents that had never happened at an address where I'd never lived with the children. Tom's cross-examination was gentle but thorough. Mrs. Henderson, you said you lived next door to Ms. Rivera on Maple Street, correct? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Yes, that's right. And this was in 2023, you stated? Yes, Tom pulled out a document. Your Honor, this is the deed to 428 Maple Street, where Ms. Rivera resided in 2023. It's a single-family home with no neighboring properties on either side. It sits on 3 acres. Could you explain, Mrs. Henderson, how you lived next door? The woman's face paled. Well, perhaps it was a different street. Perhaps. Do you know Ms. Rivera personally, Mrs. Henderson? A pause. We've met. At Marcus Hayward's mother's home, correct? Where you play bridge every Thursday. Patricia objected, but the damage was done. Judge Martinez made a note on her pad, her expression unreadable. The morning session continued with more of Marcus's carefully constructed witnesses. A teacher who claimed Emma had been withdrawn and sad during my custody periods, until Tom revealed that Emma had actually been in Marcus's custody during the time frame described. A neighbor from Marcus's current residence who testified about my erratic behavior during drop-offs, until Tom produced video from the neighbor's own doorbell camera showing me calm and composed while Marcus screamed obscenities. But I knew this was just the preliminary round. Marcus wouldn't play his trump card until he felt confident. That's when he'd bring up the real reason for this emergency custody hearing. The allegation that I'd abandoned Emma and Tyler for 3 months last summer to pursue a relationship with someone I'd met online. It was a lie so bold, so completely fabricated that I'd actually laughed when I first read it in his filing. Then I'd gotten angry. Then I'd gotten strategic. Because what Marcus didn't know was that during those 3 months, I hadn't been pursuing a relationship. I'd been in intensive therapy for PTSD, recovering from the psychological abuse I'd endured during our marriage. And I'd been working with Diana Park, the forensic accountant, untangling the web of financial fraud Marcus had woven around our family. More specifically, I'd been uncovering the truth about Marcus's successful consulting business. The one he used to justify his expensive lifestyle, his new Porsche, the 5-bedroom house he'd bought with Vanessa. The one he claimed made him the more financially stable parent, the business that didn't actually exist. During lunch recess, Tom and I sat in a small conference room. He spread out our evidence folders across the table, organized by category, communication records, financial documents, medical records, school records, and one labeled simply additional evidence that made his eyebrows rise every time he looked at it. Are you ready for this? He asked, biting into a sandwich. Once we start presenting this evidence, there's no going back. Marcus will know you've been investigating him. I've been ready for 18 months, I replied, my voice steady even as my heart hammered. He's trying to take my children away with lies. I'm going to bury him with the truth, Tom nodded slowly. The judge is already skeptical of his witnesses. That's good. But Patricia's smart. She's going to try to make you look vindictive, like you're fabricating evidence because you're bitter about the divorce. Let her try. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a folder of saved messages. I have 847 text messages from Marcus over the past 2 years. I have 312 emails. I have documentation of every single visitation he canceled, every phone call he blocked, every birthday party he didn't tell me about. I have medical records showing the kids were never in my care during the incidents he's describing. I have bank statements showing I sent child support on time, every time, even though he makes 3 times what I do. And the other stuff? Tom asked quietly, gesturing to the additional evidence folder. The forensic accounting? I met his eyes. That's not for today. That's for when he thinks he's winning. The afternoon session began with Marcus taking the stand. He looked confident, comfortable even, in his tailored suit and expensive watch. This was his element, performing, convincing, making people believe his version of reality. Patricia led him through his narrative carefully. He described being a devoted father, taking on the burden of primary custody after our divorce. He painted himself as patient and understanding, giving me chance after chance to be involved in our children's lives. And last summer, Patricia said, her voice softening with false sympathy, "Can you describe what happened?" Marcus's face arranged itself into an expression of pained dignity. Emma and Tyler were supposed to spend 3 weeks with their mother in July. It was court-ordered visitation. But 3 days into the visit, she called and said she needed to leave. That something had come up. She asked if I could pick up the kids early. Every word was a lie. I'd never had the kids last July. Marcus had taken them on a vacation to his parents' lake house. I had the photos he'd posted on social media to prove it. And did she explain where she was going? Patricia prompted. She said it was personal. Later, I found out through a mutual friend that she'd met someone online. A man from Seattle. She'd driven up there to meet him and she just stayed. For 3 months. She barely called the kids. Barely checked in. Emma was devastated, the gallery murmured. Judge Martinez held up a hand for silence, but I could see the concern in her eyes. If this story were true, it would be devastating evidence of parental abandonment. Tom stood for cross-examination, and I could see the slight smile playing at his lips. This was the moment we'd been waiting for. Mr. Hayward, you stated that Ms. Rivera had custody of Emma and Tyler for 3 days in July before abandoning them, correct? Yes. July of last year, 2024? That's correct. Tom pulled out a document. Your Honor, this is the custody agreement signed by both parties in June 2023. Could you read the highlighted section, Mr. Hayward? Marcus took the paper, his confidence faltering slightly. It says, summer visitation to be determined mutually with 30 days written notice. And did you provide Ms. Rivera with 30 days written notice of summer visitation for 2024? We discussed it. That's not what I asked. Did you provide written notice as required by your custody agreement? Marcus's jaw tightened. I don't recall the specific details of every conversation. Tom smiled. Let me refresh your memory. Your Honor, I'd like to submit Exhibit A, Marcus Hayward's Instagram account from July 2024. He handed copies to the judge and Patricia, whose face went pale as she looked at them. On the screen behind us, blown up for the entire courtroom to see, was Marcus's Instagram feed from last summer. Photo after photo of him, Vanessa, and my children at his parents' lake house. Emma on a jet ski, Tyler fishing off the dock. Marcus and Vanessa toasting wine glasses at sunset with the caption, Perfect Family Vacation. Every photo was dated. July 7th, July 12th, July 18th, July 23rd. Mr. Hayward, if your children were abandoned by their mother for 3 months starting in July, how were they simultaneously on vacation with you at your parents' lake house? The courtroom erupted. Judge Martinez banged her gavel, but the damage was done. Marcus's face had gone from confident to trapped in seconds. Those dates must be wrong. Instagram doesn't randomly change dates, Mr. Hayward. Tom pulled out more documents. Here are receipts from your parents' lake house marina, showing charges to your credit card throughout July and August. Here are medical records showing Tyler was treated for a bee sting at a clinic near the lake on July 15th. The authorized parent signature is yours. Here is Emma's summer camp registration for a program near the lake. Paid by you. Running from July 1st through August 15th. Marcus looked at Patricia desperately, but she was frantically flipping through her own files, realizing her client had completely fabricated his star evidence. So I'll ask you again. Mr. Hayward, when exactly did Ms. Rivera abandon your children to pursue a relationship in Seattle? I might have gotten the timeline confused, Marcus stammered. Maybe it was a different summer. There has only been one summer since your divorce, Tom said coldly. Would you like to admit, under oath, that you fabricated the entire story about Ms. Rivera abandoning Emma and Tyler? Judge Martinez leaned forward. Mr. Hayward, I'd like an answer to that question. Marcus's face flushed red. I could see the rage building behind his eyes. The same rage I'd seen countless times during our marriage when he couldn't manipulate his way out of consequences. I didn't fabricate anything, he said through gritted teeth. Maybe it wasn't last summer. Maybe it was the summer before, or maybe it was… Exhibit B, Your Honor, Tom interrupted, handing over more documents. Cell phone records showing Ms. Rivera's location data for the summers of 2023 and 2024. She never left the state. In fact, her phone records show she was at her registered address virtually every day, with regular trips to her workplace, the grocery store, and her gym. The only trip out of the county was a weekend. Visit to her sister in Portland, 80 miles away, which was during Mr. Hayward's custody period. I watched as the realization spread across Judge Martinez's face. This wasn't just a dispute between exes. This was systematic fraud presented to the court. We'll take a 15-minute recess, the judge announced, her voice tight. Mr. Hayward, Ms. Holbrook, I suggest you use this time to reconsider your testimony. As the courtroom cleared, I finally allowed myself to breathe. Tom squeezed my shoulder. That went well. But you know he's going to come back swinging. Patricia's going to try to salvage this. Let them try, I said quietly, because we'd only scratched the surface. The abandoned children narrative was just Marcus's opening move. I knew him well enough to know he'd have backup plans, other lies ready to deploy. What he didn't know was that I had 18 months of evidence waiting in folders. Evidence of his real income sources. Evidence of where Vanessa actually came from. Evidence of what he'd been doing with our children's college funds. Evidence that would not only destroy his custody case but potentially put him in prison. But I wasn't ready to play that card yet. First, I wanted him to dig his hole deeper. I wanted every lie on the record. I wanted the judge to see exactly who Marcus Hayward really was. A man so narcissistic, so desperate for control, that he'd commit perjury and fraud to punish the woman who dared to leave him. When we reconvened, Patricia looked shaken but determined. She'd clearly had an intense conversation with Marcus during the recess. Your Honor, she began, my client may have been mistaken about specific dates regarding last summer. The stress of single parenthood has taken a toll on his memory of exact timelines. However, the core issue remains. Ms. Rivera has been an inconsistent presence in her children's lives. Judge Martinez's expression was unreadable. Continue, but I want specificity. No more vague accusations, Patricia nodded. We have documentation showing that Ms. Rivera missed 17 scheduled visitations over the past year. Tom stood immediately. Your Honor, if I may address this before testimony continues. Judge Martinez nodded and Tom approached with a thick folder. Your Honor, these are text message exchanges between my client and Mr. Hayward regarding visitation. I've highlighted each of the 17 occasions Ms. Holbrook mentioned. In 14 of them, Mr. Hayward canceled the visitation within 24 hours of the scheduled time, citing various excuses. The children were sick. They had last-minute school events. Vanessa had planned a family activity. In the remaining 3, Ms. Rivera arrived at the designated exchange location at the agreed-upon time, and Mr. Hayward simply didn't show up. He handed copies to the judge and Patricia. On page 12, you'll see Mr. Hayward texting, "Sorry, Emma's sick, can't make it," at 9 p.m. the night before a scheduled weekend visitation. On page 15, "Tyler has a tournament. You'll have to skip this week." On page 23, "Vanessa already bought tickets to a show. Kids are coming with us." Judge Martinez read through the messages, her frown deepening. Ms. Holbrook, did you review these communications before filing this motion? Patricia's jaw tightened. Your Honor, we relied on Mr. Hayward's representation of events. I'm beginning to see a pattern here, Judge Martinez said coldly. Mr. Hayward's representations don't seem to align with documented evidence. Do you have any allegations against Ms. Rivera that are supported by actual facts? This was the moment. I could see it in Marcus's body language, the way he leaned forward and whispered urgently to Patricia. She shook her head slightly, but he kept insisting. Finally, she nodded reluctantly. Your Honor, we'd like to call Emma Hayward to testify. My heart stopped. Tom was on his feet immediately. Your Honor, Emma is 12 years old. Calling her to testify in a custody dispute could be traumatic and— I'm aware of the implications, Mr. Chen, Judge Martinez interrupted. However, children of Emma's age can be called to testify in custody matters if the court deems it appropriate. I'll interview her in chambers first with both attorneys present to determine if she's capable of providing testimony. We'll reconvene in 30 minutes. Tom turned to me as the judge left the bench. Did you know he was going to do this? I suspected, I said quietly, my stomach churning. When everything else fails, use the kids. That's Marcus's style. What terrified me wasn't that Emma might lie for her father. It was that she might tell the truth and Marcus wouldn't care. He'd coached her, shaped her perception of reality the same way he'd done to me for years. Emma loved me, I knew that. But she'd been living in Marcus's house, hearing his version of events every day for 2 years. How much of his poison had seeped into her understanding of our family? In the hallway, I caught a glimpse of Emma waiting with a victim advocate. She looked so much older than 12, dressed in a modest navy dress that I knew Vanessa had picked out. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a French braid, and she was twisting her hands nervously in her lap. Our eyes met for just a second. I tried to smile, to send her some signal that I loved her, that she didn't have to do this. But Marcus appeared, blocking my view, saying something to Emma that made her nod and stand straighter. Ms. Rivera, the victim advocate called. You'll need to wait out here. The judge wants to speak with Emma privately first. I watched my daughter disappear into the judge's chambers, followed by Tom, Patricia, and Marcus. The door closed, and I was left alone in the hallway with nothing but my thoughts and the devastating possibility that Marcus might actually turn my own child against me. 25 minutes felt like hours. When the door finally opened, Tom emerged first, his face grave. He pulled me aside quickly. She's going to testify, he whispered. The judge thinks she's mature enough and wants to hear what she has to say. But Kate, I need to prepare you. Emma's been coached. She's going to say things that aren't true. Things Marcus clearly taught her to say. What kind of things? She says you've been distant, that you don't ask about school or her friends, that you seem more interested in your phone than spending time with them during visits. She says last Christmas you gave them generic gift cards instead of real presents because you didn't know what they liked anymore. Each statement felt like a knife. Generic gift cards because Marcus had refused to tell me what they wanted and returned every gift I'd tried to send to the house. Distant because Marcus scheduled all visits at noisy restaurants where real conversation was impossible. More interested in my phone because I was desperately documenting every visit, taking photos and notes, gathering evidence for exactly this moment. She's 12, I said, fighting tears. She doesn't understand what he's doing to her. I know. But Kate, here's the thing. I asked her some questions too, and her answers didn't quite line up with Marcus's narrative. Small things, but important. She said she sees you sometimes when Marcus's custody agreement claims you never exercise your visitation. She mentioned a birthday present from a few months ago that Marcus claimed you'd forgotten entirely. There are cracks in the story. We filed back into the courtroom. Emma was seated in the witness box looking small and scared. Judge Martinez had ordered the courtroom closed to everyone except the essential parties. It was just us, Marcus, Vanessa, the attorneys, the court reporter, and my daughter. Patricia approached her gently. Emma, can you state your name for the record? Emma Catherine Hayward. Her voice was steady but quiet. And how old are you, Emma? 12. I'll be 13 in October. Emma, I know this is difficult, but can you tell the judge about your relationship with your mother? Emma glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. That tiny gesture told me everything. She'd been prepared for this, rehearsed, told what to say and how to say it. I love my mom, Emma began, and my heart clenched. But she's been different since the divorce. She doesn't really know us anymore. Like, she doesn't ask about my friends or my school or soccer. When we do see her, she's always on her phone texting or whatever. It feels like she's just going through the motions because she has to, not because she wants to. Can you give me an example? Patricia prompted. Last time I saw her, which was like a month ago, I tried to tell her about making the varsity soccer team, and she just said, "That's great, honey," without even looking up from her phone. I don't think she even heard me. I remembered that day. We'd been at a loud restaurant Marcus had insisted on. Emma had been excited about something, but between the noise and Marcus's friend who'd coincidentally shown up to chat with the kids, I'd struggled to hear. I'd asked her to repeat it 3 times, and she'd finally gotten frustrated and said, "Never mind." I'd sent her a long text that night congratulating her on the team, asking about practices and games. She'd never responded, and when I'd asked Marcus about forwarding me the game schedule, he'd said Emma had decided not to play after all. And Christmas? Patricia continued. She gave us gift cards to Amazon. Like, not even in cards or anything. Just the codes texted to us. Tyler was really upset because Dad and Vanessa got us all this great stuff, and Mom couldn't even be bothered to wrap a present. What Emma didn't know was that I'd bought presents. Carefully chosen presents based on the interests I'd gleaned from their social media posts since Marcus wouldn't tell me what they wanted. I'd driven to Marcus's house to deliver them personally. He'd refused to open the door, instead calling the police and claiming I was violating the custody agreement by showing up unscheduled. The presents were still in my car trunk, with receipts dated December 18th. After I'd been turned away by police, I'd panicked about them having nothing from me on Christmas morning. So I'd sent gift cards as a backup, hoping they'd at least have something. Patricia asked a few more questions, each one painting me as distant, disinterested, more concerned with my own life than my children's. Emma answered mechanically, and I could see Tom taking notes on every response. Then it was Tom's turn to cross-examine. He approached Emma carefully, his voice gentle. Emma, you said you saw your mom about a month ago. Do you remember where? At that Italian restaurant. Haraba's? And your dad was there too? Yeah, he drops us off and picks us up. Actually, Emma, according to the visitation agreement, drop-off visits at restaurants aren't supposed to happen. Your mom is supposed to have you at her house for full weekends. Do you know why you only meet at restaurants? Emma looked confused. Dad says it's easier. Mom's apartment is small. Have you ever been to your mom's apartment? A pause. No, Dad says it's not appropriate for us to be there. Tom pulled out photos. Your Honor, these are pictures of Ms. Rivera's current residence. It's a 3-bedroom apartment in a family-friendly complex with a pool and playground. Emma, did your dad ever tell you that your mom has a bedroom set up for you and Tyler? Emma's eyes widened as she looked at the photos. No. Dad said she lives in a studio. Did your dad tell you why you only see your mom at restaurants instead of spending weekends at her home? He said she didn't want us there, that it would disrupt her life. Tom approached with more documents. Emma, I'm going to show you some text messages between your mom and dad. These are from the past 6 months. Can you read the highlighted parts? Emma took the papers, her hands shaking slightly. I watched her eyes scan the messages. Kate, I'd love to have the kids this weekend. Are we still on for Friday pickup? Marcus, actually something came up. Rain check? Kate, Marcus, this is the 3rd weekend in a row, please. I miss them. Marcus, stop being dramatic. We'll figure out something soon. Another exchange. Kate, can I take Emma and Tyler to the Science Museum Saturday? There's an exhibit on space exploration Tyler would love. Marcus, they're busy. Kate, doing what? It's my scheduled weekend. Marcus, family time with Vanessa. You should have thought about family time before the divorce. Emma looked up at Tom. Then at me, confusion and something else, doubt crossing her face. Emma, do these messages sound like your mom doesn't want to spend time with you? Or do they sound like someone trying very hard to see you? I don't know. Dad said she's always making excuses. Did your dad show you these messages? No. Tom pulled out more evidence. Emma, your mom texted you 17 times in September alone, asking about school, your soccer games, your life. Do you remember getting those texts? Emma bit her lip. My phone broke in August. Dad got me a new one, but I didn't have my old contacts. Did your dad help you get your mom's new number for your new phone? He said he would, but... Emma's voice trailed off as realization began to dawn. Tom softened his voice even more. Emma, I know your dad loves you very much, and I know this is confusing. But I need to ask you something. When you said your mom didn't ask about your soccer team at Carrabba's, do you remember what was happening at the restaurant that day? Emma thought for a moment. Dad's friend Brandon was there. He came over to talk to us. For how long? Like, the whole time? He was telling Tyler about his new boat. So for most of your mom's visit, your dad's friend was at your table talking? Emma nodded slowly. And you said your mom was on her phone. Did you see what she was doing on her phone? No. Tom pulled out his phone, scrolling to something. Your Honor, with permission, I'd like to show Emma her mother's phone from that date. Judge Martinez nodded. Tom showed Emma the screen. Can you read what your mom was doing on her phone? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. She was looking up varsity soccer statistics and texting me congratulations and asking when my first game was. A tear rolled down her cheek. I never got these texts. Emma, what phone number did your mom send those texts to? Emma read it off. It was her old number, the phone that had broken. Emma, Tom said gently, I want you to think very carefully. Is it possible that what your dad has been telling you about your mom isn't entirely true? Before Emma could answer, Marcus shot to his feet. This is manipulation. He's confusing her. Judge Martinez's gavel came down hard. Mr. Hayward, sit down immediately, or I will hold you in contempt. She turned to Emma, her voice kind. Emma, I'm going to ask you to step outside with the victim advocate for a few minutes. I need to speak with the attorneys. As Emma left, she glanced back at me. Our eyes met, and this time I saw something different in her expression. Not the coached distance Marcus had cultivated, but genuine confusion. Doubt, the beginning of questions she'd been afraid to ask. Judge Martinez waited until the door closed. When she spoke, her voice was ice. Ms. Holbrook, I'm going to be very clear. Your client has presented fabricated evidence, committed perjury, and apparently alienated his children from their mother through systematic deception. The text messages Mr. Chen just presented show a pattern of blocked communication and denied visitation. Unless you have some compelling evidence that hasn't been tainted by Mr. Hayward's dishonesty, I'm inclined to dismiss this petition and consider sanctions. Patricia looked stricken. Your Honor, we had no knowledge that... You had a responsibility to verify your client's claims before bringing them to my courtroom, Judge Martinez interrupted. Do you have anything else? Because right now, I'm seeing a parent who has been denied access to her children and another parent who has weaponized the family court system to continue that denial. This was it. Marcus was cornered, his lies exposed, his narrative crumbling. I should have felt triumphant. But all I felt was sadness for Emma, confusion for Tyler, who'd been waiting outside all day, and rage at Marcus for putting them through this. Patricia whispered frantically with Marcus. I could see the desperation in his body language. Then his face changed, morphing into something harder, meaner. He leaned close to Patricia's ear and said something that made her eyes widen. Your Honor, Patricia said slowly, as if the words pained her. Mr. Hayward has informed me of additional concerns. Concerns about Ms. Rivera's mental stability and fitness as a parent. Tom stood immediately. Your Honor, this is... Mr. Hayward claims Ms. Rivera was hospitalized for psychiatric reasons last summer. He has documentation. My blood ran cold. There it was. The nuclear option. The thing I'd known Marcus would eventually use, even though doing so would reveal his own carefully hidden secrets. Tom looked at me, questions in his eyes. I nodded slightly. We'd prepared for this, too. He's right, I said clearly, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I was in intensive therapy last summer for PTSD, trauma resulting from years of psychological abuse during my marriage to Marcus Hayward. The courtroom went silent. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Ms. Rivera, are you saying— I'm saying that my ex-husband spent our entire marriage gaslighting me, isolating me from friends and family, and systematically destroying my self-esteem. When I finally left him, the trauma caught up with me. So yes, I sought professional help. I spent 8 weeks in a partial hospitalization program working with a therapist who specializes in domestic abuse recovery. I turned to look directly at Marcus, watching his face pale as I continued. And while I was there, learning to rebuild my sense of self, Marcus was already planning this. He was building his false narrative about my abandonment. He was coaching Emma to doubt me. He was intercepting my calls and messages. He was using my own recovery against me, knowing that seeking mental health treatment could be twisted into evidence of instability. Patricia tried to interrupt, but Judge Martinez held up her hand. I'm not finished, I said, my voice growing stronger. Marcus wants to present my hospitalization as proof I'm unfit. What he doesn't want to discuss is why I needed that treatment in the first place. He doesn't want to talk about the recording I have of him threatening me. He doesn't want to mention the protective order I had to file. He definitely doesn't want to explain why he refused to attend marriage counseling, but demanded I see a therapist of his choosing, one who, coincidentally, later lost his license for accepting kickbacks to diagnose patients with disorders they didn't have. Marcus's face had gone from pale to red. That's a lie, is it? I reached into my bag, pulling out a folder I'd been saving. Your Honor, I'd like to submit records from Dr. Richard Lawson, the therapist Marcus insisted I see during our marriage. The same Dr. Lawson who's currently under investigation. The same Dr. Lawson who diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder after 3 sessions, a diagnosis that requires months of evaluation. The same Dr. Lawson who received $5,000 payments from Marcus, documented in bank records, around the time of each of my appointments. I handed the folder to Tom, who passed copies to the judge and Patricia. The documents showed everything: bank transfers from Marcus to Dr. Lawson's personal account, the suspiciously fast diagnosis, the state medical board investigation, and a sworn affidavit from my current therapist explaining how the previous diagnosis had been completely unfounded. Marcus wanted me labeled as mentally ill, I continued, my voice steady despite the emotion churning inside me. He needed me to doubt my own reality, to think I was the problem in our marriage. When that didn't work and I left anyway, he tried to use it against me in court. When I got real help and started healing, he tried to use that against me too. There's no scenario where Marcus allows me to be anything other than the villain in his story, because accepting that I'm a good mother means accepting that he's been abusing his children by keeping them from me. Judge Martinez was reading through the documents, her expression growing darker with each page. Ms. Holbrook, did you know about these payments to Dr. Lawson? Patricia looked genuinely shocked. No, Your Honor. This is the first I'm hearing of it. Mr. Hayward, the judge's voice was sharp. Did you pay Dr. Lawson to diagnose your wife with a personality disorder? Marcus's mouth opened and closed. That's not— It was for sessions. I was helping her pay for therapy because she couldn't afford it. Then why were the payments made to his personal account rather than through the clinic billing? Tom asked. And why do they correspond with dates after Ms. Rivera stopped seeing him? The last payment was made 6 months after their final session. The silence was damning. Judge Martinez set down the documents. I'm going to order a recess until tomorrow morning. Mr. Hayward, Ms. Holbrook, I strongly suggest you reconsider this petition. As it stands, I'm seeing a pattern of deception, manipulation, and parental alienation, but not from the party you've accused. As we filed out of the courtroom, I caught a glimpse of Emma in the hallway. She was talking quietly with the victim advocate, but her eyes kept drifting to me. The doubt I'd seen earlier had deepened into something else. Questions. Confusion. The bow. Beginning of understanding that her father might not have been telling her the truth, Marcus stormed past, without looking at either of us, Vanessa hurrying after him. I heard him hissing at Patricia in a corner, gesticulating wildly. His perfect plan was falling apart, and he was doing what he always did when cornered, attacking, blaming, refusing to accept responsibility. Tom pulled me aside. "That was risky, bringing up the hospitalization yourself. We could have fought to keep it out." "No," I said, watching Marcus's agitated pacing. He was always going to use it. Better to control the narrative, to explain it on my terms. And it opened the door for the Dr. Lawson evidence. The judge is furious. I've never seen Martinez this angry. But Kate, we need to talk about tomorrow. Marcus is desperate now. Desperate people do unpredictable things. If he has any other ammunition, he's going to use it. I thought about the additional evidence folder still sitting in Tom's briefcase. The forensic accounting Diana Park had completed. The real story of Marcus's income and where it came from. The truth about Vanessa and how they'd really met. The evidence that could destroy Marcus completely. "Let him bring whatever he has," I said quietly. "I'm done being afraid of him." That evening, I sat in my apartment, the 3-bedroom apartment Marcus had told Emma was a studio, staring at the bedrooms I'd prepared for my children. Emma's room was decorated in her favorite colors, teal and silver, with posters of her favorite soccer players. Tyler's room had space-themed bedding and a telescope by the window. Both rooms had been ready for months, waiting for visits that never happened. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mom?" Emma's voice was small, uncertain. "Emma, sweetheart, how did you—" "I got your number from the court papers. I had to wait until Dad went to bed. Mom, I need to ask you something." My heart was pounding. "Anything, baby. You can ask me anything. Did you really text me about soccer? About my games and stuff?" "Every single one. I have a calendar in my kitchen with all your games marked, even though your dad wouldn't tell me where they were. I've been trying to find the schedule online through your school's website." A long pause. "Dad said you didn't care about my soccer. That you thought it was a waste of time." "Emma, I care about everything in your life. Soccer, school, your friends, everything. I've been trying so hard to be part of it, but your dad has been blocking me at every turn." "The texts about my birthday present. Those were real? I bought you that astronomy book you wanted. The one about women in space exploration. Your dad wouldn't let me deliver it, so it's been sitting here waiting for you." I heard a choked sound, like she was crying. I thought, "Dad said you forgot my birthday. He said you were too busy with your new life to remember." "I could never forget your birthday, Emma. Never. I have a whole day planned for when we can celebrate together." "Mom, I don't understand. Why would Dad lie about all this? He's my dad. He loves me." This was the moment I'd been dreading. How do you tell your child that the parent they trust has been manipulating them? How do you explain that love and control aren't the same thing? "Your dad does love you," I said carefully. "But sometimes people who are hurt do hurtful things. When I left the marriage, your dad felt abandoned and angry. Instead of dealing with those feelings in a healthy way, he decided to punish me by taking away the thing I love most, you and Tyler. He convinced himself he was protecting you, but really he was just trying to hurt me. That's messed up, Mom." "I know, sweetheart. I know. The stuff you said in court today about him. Was that all true? Did he really hurt you?" I closed my eyes, remembering years of carefully calibrated cruelty. The way Marcus would tell me I was overreacting, too sensitive, imagining things. The way he'd contradict me in front of friends until I stopped trusting my own memory. The way he'd controlled every aspect of our finances, our social life, our family decisions, all while making it seem like I was just too incompetent to handle things myself. Yes, Emma, it was true. Your dad spent our marriage making me feel small and worthless. When I finally got strong enough to leave, he tried to make sure I'd never recover by taking you kids away from me. Not because he thought it was best for you, but because he knew it would destroy me. Emma was quiet for a long moment. "I heard him talking to Vanessa tonight. After court. He was really angry. saying stuff about you, about the judge, about how he was going to make you pay for embarrassing him. Mom, it scared me. I've never heard him sound like that. My blood ran cold. What exactly did he say, Emma? Something about how you think you're so smart, but he's been planning this for longer than you know. That you playing your little games with evidence. But he has something that will end this once and for all. And then Vanessa told him to calm down, that I might hear. And he said it didn't matter because after tomorrow, you'd never see us again anyway. I stood up, pacing my apartment. Emma, I need you to do something for me. I need you to write down everything your dad has said about me over the past 2 years. Every time he told you I didn't want to see you, every explanation for why visits didn't happen, everything. Can you do that? I think so. But Mom, what if he's right? What if he does have something that, Emma, listen to me. Whatever your dad thinks he has, whatever he's planning to present tomorrow, I want you to know this. I have never stopped fighting for you. I have never stopped loving you. And I will never ever give up on being your mother. Do you understand? I understand. Her voice was stronger now. Mom, I'm sorry. For what I said in court. I didn't know. You have nothing to apologize for, sweetheart. You told the truth as you understood it. That's all anyone can do. But now you're starting to see the bigger picture, and that takes courage. I'm proud of you. After we hung up, I immediately called Tom. We have a problem. Marcus is planning something for tomorrow. Something he thinks will end this case in his favor. What kind of something? I don't know, but Emma overheard him saying he's been planning it longer than I know. Tom, what if there's evidence I don't know about? What if he's been setting me up this whole time and I walked right into it? Tom was quiet for a moment. Kate, I've seen men like Marcus before. They're so convinced they're smarter than everyone else that they underestimate their opponents. Whatever he's got planned, we'll handle it. We still have the forensic accounting, remember? If he tries anything, we go nuclear. But I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Marcus had been too calm when the judge dismissed his abandonment story. Too composed when his lies were exposed. He'd been playing a longer game, and tomorrow I'd find out what it was. I pulled out my laptop and opened the folder Diana Park had sent me months ago. The forensic accounting report was 247 pages of detailed financial analysis, tracking every dollar Marcus had earned and spent over the past 5 years. What it revealed was stunning in its criminality. Marcus's consulting business, the one he'd used to justify his lavish lifestyle and claim he was the more financially stable parent, was a shell company. It had no real clients, no actual contracts, no legitimate income. Instead, Diana had traced a complex web of money laundering, connecting Marcus to his college friend Brandon, the same Brandon who'd conveniently shown up at Carrabba's during my visit with the kids. Brandon ran a string of semi-legal online gambling operations. Marcus's consulting business was actually a front for processing gambling proceeds, making them look like legitimate consulting fees. Over the past 3 years, he'd laundered approximately $2.3 million through various accounts, taking a 15% cut for his services. But that wasn't the most damning part. The most damaging evidence was what Marcus had done with the children's college funds. Both Emma and Tyler had trust funds established by my parents before they died, $150,000 each, meant to be untouched until college. Marcus, as trustee, had systematic drained both accounts to fund his lifestyle and cover his money laundering operation. The accounts that should have held $300,000 total now held less than $10,000. He'd stolen from our children. His own children. And then there was Vanessa. Diana's investigation had revealed that Vanessa wasn't just some woman Marcus had met after our divorce. She'd been in the picture for the last 2 years of our marriage. But their relationship wasn't romantic. It was transactional. Vanessa worked for Brandon, managing the customer service side of the gambling operation. She'd been inserted into Marcus's life to help with the laundering scheme, and their whirlwind romance after my divorce had been carefully orchestrated to make Marcus look stable and family-oriented for the custody battle. Vanessa's real name wasn't even Vanessa Harper. It was Nicole Brennan, and she had a criminal record in 3 states for fraud and identity theft. Tomorrow, if Marcus tried to destroy me, I would destroy him back. Not with lies like he'd used, but with documented, verifiable truth. I would show the court exactly what kind of man was claiming to be the better parent. I would reveal that he was a criminal who'd stolen from his own children, who'd built his entire life on fraud, who'd brought a convicted felon into his home to help maintain his lies. The thought should have made me feel powerful. Instead, I just felt tired. Tired of fighting, tired of defending myself, tired of watching my children be caught in the middle of Marcus's narcissistic war. But Emma's phone call had given me hope. She was starting to see through his manipulation. She was asking questions. Tomorrow, when Marcus played his final card, she'd be watching with newly opened eyes. And maybe, just maybe, this nightmare would finally end. I spent the rest of the night preparing, going through every piece of evidence one more time, making sure our documentation was airtight, rehearsing answers to questions I thought might come. At 3 a.m., I finally fell asleep on my couch, surrounded by papers and folders, dreaming of a future where I could just be Emma and Tyler's mother without it being a battle. The morning arrived too soon. I dressed carefully in a dark gray suit, professional and composed. Whatever Marcus threw at me today, I would face it head on. No more hiding, no more fear, no more letting him control the narrative. Tom met me outside the courthouse, 2 coffee cups in hand. "You ready for this?" "As ready as I'll ever be." "Good, because I did some digging last night after your call. I reached out to some contacts, asked around about what Marcus might be planning." He paused, his expression serious. "Kate, there's a rumor that he's going to accuse you of substance abuse. Apparently, he's got a witness who claims to have seen you purchasing drugs." My stomach dropped. That's insane. I don't use drugs. I barely drink, I know, but if he's got a witness willing to lie under oath, it could get messy. We'll need to be ready with drug test results, character witnesses, anything that can immediately refute it. As we walked into the courthouse, I saw Marcus standing with Patricia and another man I didn't recognize. The stranger was in his late 50s, wearing an expensive suit and an expression of practiced sympathy. He looked like exactly the type of expert witness money could buy. Marcus saw me and smiled. Not a friendly smile, a predator's smile. He thought he'd won. He thought whatever he had planned would destroy me. He had no idea what I had waiting for him. Judge Martinez called the court to order promptly at 9 a.m. Before we continue with testimony, I want to address what we learned yesterday. Mr. Hayward, your credibility with this court has been severely damaged. The evidence presented by Ms. Rivera's attorney directly contradicts nearly every claim you've made. Do you understand the seriousness of presenting false testimony? Marcus stood, his face a mask of remorse that didn't reach his eyes. Your Honor, I understand how things looked yesterday. I've been under enormous stress trying to protect my children from an unstable situation. I may have gotten some details confused, but my core concerns remain valid. My ex-wife is not fit to care for our children, and today I have proof that goes beyond scheduling confusion and text messages. Proceed, Judge Martinez said coldly. But I warn you, Mr. Hayward, I have very little patience left for theatrics. Patricia stood. Your Honor, we'd like to call Dr. Raymond Torres as an expert witness. The man in the expensive suit came forward. Tom leaned over and whispered, addiction specialist. Works primarily with wealthy clients. Known for testimony that's flexible. Dr. Torres was sworn in and took the stand. Patricia began her questioning. Dr. Torres, can you explain your credentials? I'm a licensed psychologist specializing in substance abuse disorders. I've been practicing for 30 years and have testified as an expert witness in over 200 custody cases. And have you had occasion to review materials related to this case? Yes. Mr. Hayward provided me with concerning information about Ms. Rivera's behavior over the past year. Erratic mood swings, weight loss, financial stress, and social isolation, all classic signs of substance abuse. I felt Tom tense beside me. This was it. Marcus's big play. Patricia continued. Do you have specific evidence of Ms. Rivera's substance abuse? Yes, I've reviewed a sworn statement from a witness who observed Ms. Rivera purchasing what appeared to be illegal narcotics from a known dealer on 3 separate occasions last fall. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Martinez banged her gavel. Tom was on his feet immediately. Objection. This is hearsay and speculation. No drugs were found, no arrest was made, and this mysterious witness hasn't been identified or cross-examined. Your Honor, Patricia interjected, we have the witness available to testify if needed. But Dr. Torres's evaluation is based on a pattern of behavior consistent with— Save it, Ms. Holbrook, Judge Martinez interrupted. I want to hear from this witness, now. Patricia nodded to someone in the back of the courtroom. The doors opened and a man walked in. It took me a moment to place him, and then it clicked. He was a clerk at the convenience store near my apartment building. I'd seen him dozens of times buying coffee or milk, had probably said hello in passing. He took the stand and was sworn in. His name was Derek Mitchell. Derek Mitchell shifted nervously in the witness chair as Patricia began her questioning. Mr. Mitchell, can you describe what you witnessed regarding Ms. Rivera? I work at Quick Stop convenience store on Maple Avenue. Last September, I saw Ms. Rivera 3 times meeting with a man in the parking lot. Each time she handed him cash and he gave her small packages. The guy is known in the neighborhood. Everyone knows he deals drugs. My mouth went dry. I had met someone in that parking lot last fall, my neighbor's son who was selling me Girl Scout cookies for his daughter. 3 times. The packages were cookies. Tom stood immediately. Mr. Mitchell, did you actually see what was in these packages? Well, no, but did you hear any conversation between Ms. Rivera and this man? No, but the way they were acting. So you saw 2 people exchange items for money in a parking lot and you assumed it was drugs. Did you report this to police? Derek hesitated. No, why not? If you truly believed you witnessed illegal drug transactions, why didn't you call the authorities? I don't know. Didn't want to get involved. Tom pulled out his phone. Your Honor, I'd like to show Mr. Mitchell some photos. He approached the witness stand. Mr. Mitchell, do you recognize this man? Derek squinted at the screen. Yeah, that's the guy. The dealer. This is Robert Chen, age 16, honor student at Lincoln High School. He sells Girl Scout cookies for his younger sister every fall. Ms. Rivera bought cookies from him. Thin Mints, Samoas, and Tagalongs, to be exact. We have the receipts. The courtroom went silent. Derek's face flushed red. Tom continued, Mr. Mitchell, how much did Mr. Hayward pay you to testify today? Objection. Patricia shot to her feet. I'll allow it, Judge Martinez said icily. Answer the question, Mr. Mitchell. He gave me $500. But he said it was just to cover my time off work. No further questions. Tom returned to our table. Judge Martinez's face was stone. Ms. Holbrook, unless you have actual evidence rather than paid witnesses and fabricated testimony, I suggest we move on. Patricia looked desperately at Marcus, who was whispering urgently to her. She nodded reluctantly and stood. Your Honor, we'd like to withdraw our petition for emergency custody and— Not so fast, I said, standing before Tom could stop me. Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence now. Evidence of why Marcus Hayward is truly unfit to have custody of our children? Judge Martinez leaned forward. Proceed. Tom handed me the forensic accounting folder. My hands were steady as I opened it. Your Honor, over the past 18 months, I hired a forensic accountant to investigate Marcus's finances. What she discovered is that my ex-husband's entire lifestyle is built on fraud. I submitted the documents as Marcus's face went pale. Marcus's consulting business doesn't exist. It's a shell company used to launder money from illegal gambling operations run by his friend Brandon Myers. Over 3 years, Marcus has processed approximately $2.3 million in illegal proceeds. Patricia was frantically reading the documents, her face draining of color. But that's not the worst part, I continued, my voice growing stronger. Marcus was the trustee of our children's college funds, $150,000 each, established by my late parents. He's stolen nearly all of it. The accounts that should hold $300,000 now hold less than $10,000. He stole from Emma and Tyler to fund his criminal lifestyle. Marcus lunged from his chair. That's a lie! You can't prove— I have bank records, wire transfers, and testimony from the trust administrator, I said calmly. Every transaction documented. Every theft recorded. I turned to Vanessa, who was trying to shrink into her seat. And your fiancé? Her real name is Nicole Brennan. She has a criminal record in 3 states for fraud and identity theft. She works for Brandon Myers managing the gambling operation. Their relationship is a business arrangement designed to make Marcus look stable for this custody case. Judge Martinez held up her hand. Stop. Everyone stop. She looked at the documents, then at Marcus. Mr. Hayward, I'm ordering an immediate investigation into these allegations. Bailiff, please contact the district attorney's office. Marcus stood, his face contorted with rage. You think you're so smart, Kate? You think you've won? I'll fight this. I'll appeal. I'll make sure you never— Sit down, Mr. Hayward. Judge Martinez's voice cracked like a whip. One more outburst and you'll be held in contempt. She turned to me. Ms. Rivera, given the evidence presented, I'm granting you immediate emergency custody of Emma and Tyler. Mr. Hayward's visitation is suspended pending investigation of these allegations. The words I'd been fighting for, hoping for, barely daring to dream about. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal investigation of fraud, theft, and money laundering. Mr. Hayward, I suggest you retain a criminal defense attorney. Marcus collapsed back into his chair, his perfect facade finally shattered. Patricia was already packing her briefcase, clearly planning to withdraw from the case. Judge Martinez looked at me with something like respect. Ms. Rivera, I apologize that this process put you and your children through such trauma. The system failed you, but I'm grateful you had the strength to fight back. Your children will be released to you immediately. 3 months later, I sat at my kitchen table helping Emma with her algebra homework while Tyler built a model rocket in his room. The apartment that Marcus had called too small was filled with laughter and the comfortable chaos of family life. Marcus was awaiting trial on multiple felony charges. Vanessa, Nicole, had taken a plea deal and was testifying against him. The children's college funds were being recovered through asset seizure. Emma looked up from her math book. Mom, I'm sorry I believed Dad's lies for so long. I squeezed her hand. You were a child being manipulated by an adult you trusted. You have nothing to apologize for. What matters is that you're asking questions now, thinking critically, and learning to trust yourself. I'm glad we're here, she said simply. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. The doorbell rang, my sister dropping by for dinner. My friends no longer kept at bay by Marcus's isolation tactics. My life slowly rebuilding into something healthy and whole. I'd won more than a custody battle. I'd reclaimed my truth, my voice, and my children, and that was worth every moment of the fight. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.